The king of Sandfills throws a ceremony for his 17th son, Hiel, handing him his own territory to mark his 15th birthday and his passage into adulthood. Hiel freezes up as the king coldly orders him to head out to one specific piece of land and fix it. Now he's alone on a small boat rowing through choppy water toward a jagged wall of rock way off in the distance. Checking his map, he realizes Sheol Reef is a full 10 days from the capital, so far out that even pirates and traders steer clear of it. The royal ship sails off without even checking if he made it to shore, and he accepts that this dead rock is now his official home. Back at the palace, the 11th Prince Valpas and the 9th Princess Thalia laugh about it, saying the reef is exactly where their brother belongs. He thinks back on how everyone is born with a crest, and while his brothers walk around with legendary powers like Sword God, he's always been the one they mock for having nothing. Since his crest is just some unknown symbol that doesn't seem to do anything, his family treats him like an embarrassment, brushing off his earlier pleas to just send someone else to run the reef instead. King Rui had shut down his objections by saying it was the oracle's word, which basically sealed his exile from the kingdom for good. Picking his way through the rocks, he briefly wonders if getting executed for treason would have been the better deal, then decides it's way too early to give up on living. As he gets close to shore, he tries to use wind magic to slow the boat down before it smashes into the jagged stones. All the spell manages to do is stir up a weak little breeze, barely enough to move a feather, a pretty pathetic reminder of just how weak his magic really is. Once he lands and ties down the boat, he starts hauling his supplies up to higher ground and spots a cave that could work as shelter. Stepping inside, he's met with a grim sight, piles of skeletons and human remains scattered all across the floor. He just stands there staring at the bones in horror, realizing exactly what kind of dark history this cave holds. With nowhere else to go, he forces himself to drag his barrels and crates inside anyway, setting up camp among the remains of whoever came before him. He stands at the mouth of the cave and looks out at the sea, taking a second to really let the isolation sink in. The view actually strikes him as beautiful, way more peaceful than the constant fighting back at the capital, and it's enough to make him promise himself he'll survive this exile no matter what. He runs the numbers on his odds of rescue and realizes any foreign or pirate ship that happened by would probably just grab him as a slave, since there aren't any real trade routes out here. Knowing his food will only last a month, he decides his first move has to be burying the bones and grabbing a pickaxe to start clearing out the cave. He's stunned to find a mining tool has just appeared in his hands out of nowhere. Looking around at the skeletons and old chests scattered through the cavern, he just stands there completely confused by his own surroundings. A voice starts talking directly inside his head, repeating some kind of acquisition message, and he demands to know who's speaking before the voice asks if he's ready to start mining. The crest on his hand starts glowing as a system message explains that his cave king crest works like a built-in advisor. It hits him that the crest he was born with is finally kicking in, since his old life back at the palace never once led him near an actual cave. As the advisor explains how it can boost his skills and help him rank up inside the cave, he agrees to give mining a shot and the system starts optimizing the process. Standing ready with his pickaxe, several spots along the cave walls start glowing with a white light. The advisor tells him the glowing spots are the safest places to mine to avoid cave-ins, and he swings for his very first strike. One light hit and the rock just shatters, and he notices a night vision effect kicking in that makes the pitch-black cave look perfectly bright. He keeps swinging, picking up speed, surprised to realize he's actually enjoying the work. The sound of heavy digging echoes through the depths as he carves his way through the massive stone walls. His mining power keeps climbing with his rank, and he nearly trips when the system offers to pull over 100 rocks straight into storage for him. He picks up the pace, clearing out a huge stretch of the cave wall in one long mining session. The rocks get moved straight into a building inventory, and the advisor points out the weight won't slow him down at all, and he can pull it out whenever he wants. Seeing hundreds of rocks already stacked up, he turns on automatic retrieval and decides to start digging deeper into the ground. His inventory keeps filling up fast, and the advisor reports he's already gone down 10 meters, a unit he's never even heard of before. A whole list of ores pops up, including silver and gold, though he figures gold's basically worthless out here on a deserted island. Checking the field guide, he's shocked to learn magic crystals boost his energy, and turtle stones can actually stretch out his lifespan. Looking out over Sheol Reef, he realizes the cave Cave King crest has turned this dead rock into something incredible. Fired up, he grips his pickaxe and keeps mining, completely forgetting the whole reason he was even out here, finding a rescue ship. He checks his inventory and finds he's collected 90 magic crystals and 6 turtle stones, which could boost his magic power and extend his life. He decides to use every crystal right away, hoping it'll unlock some more advanced magic. He stands there quietly for a moment afterward, waiting to see if anything happens. Despite the huge upgrade, his body doesn't look any different at all, and he starts wondering if the magic boost actually did anything. To find out for sure, he decides to test his strength by clearing the debris out of the path he already dug. He reaches out his hand and calls on the element of wind to see just what this power-up can really do. A massive magic circle snaps into existence and unleashes a violent vortex way bigger than anything he expected. The blast of wind wipes out the rocks and sweeps away the scattered remains of the dead still left in the cave. He's visibly shaken by just how huge that spell turned out to be. While he's apologizing to the spirits for the sudden destruction and realizing those 90 crystals gave him a terrifying amount of power, something moves in the rubble. Something gooey suddenly leaps onto him, and he stumbles back in a panic trying to figure out what it even is. It's been 3 days since he got banished to this desolate rock known as Sheol Reef, stripped of his title as the 17th prince of the Sandfell's kingdom. Loaded up with his tools and food, he gets ready for another day of work, calling out to the creature he's named Sheol. He rides on top of the slime as they head into the tunnels, thinking of the creature as his very first friend out here in this wasteland. Thinking back to 3 days ago, he remembers the moment the creature first showed up out of the dust after his wind magic cleared the area. Recognizing it as a slime, he remembers reading about a rare taming skill that lets a monster follow a human around. Even though his kingdom hates monsters and he's never actually seen the skill used, he realizes there's nobody around here to judge him for it. He finishes the taming process by pulling a name from the area's title and officially names the creature Sheol. Back in the present, he admits that even though the slime can't understand a word he says, just having another living thing around does wonders for his morale. He discovers Sheol is surprisingly smart, responding to hand signals by shifting shape into a platform that lets him reach higher mining spots. In just 3 days, his mining efficiency has tripled, and his boosted magic has solved every survival problem he had, letting him easily gather food and water. Lying in bed, he asks for a small adjustment to the right before finally settling in comfortably against a slime. Looking up at the night sky, he thinks about finding 10 more slimes while mining, figuring that while Sheol seems special, talking to the others will be tricky, though he doesn't mind having them around as long as they don't get in the way of tomorrow's work. Waking up the next morning, he greets Sheol and asks why the slime is bouncing around so excitedly near the cave entrance. Noticing the commotion, he rushes down to the shore and finds wreckage scattered across the sharp rocks, calling out in shock. Lying on the beach are 3 unconscious figures, a muscular green-skinned warrior, a robed old man, and a small child, all beaten up by the waves and debris. He realizes these are goblins whose boat must have crashed, and even knowing the deep hatred between humans and goblins, he finds himself hesitating as he watches them. Despite everything, he decides he can't just let them die, and he activates a healing circle to stabilize their condition. He carefully carries each survivor to safety and tucks them into sleeping bags, confirming their lives are no longer in immediate danger. Worried they might attack once they wake up, he tells Sheol to warn him of any changes, trying to convince himself his mid-level magic will be enough to keep him safe. To settle his nerves, he throws himself back into mining, gripping his pickaxe and digging deeper into the rock. He finds comfort in the repetitive work, noting that mining helps him forget his worries, especially in that satisfying moment of checking his inventory for something new. After finding a misogi stone that can lift curses, along with a shining stone, he figures discovering new materials is rewarding enough to keep him digging through the dark. Sheol suddenly rushes back to warn him the survivors have woken up, and as he gets closer, he hears a heated argument about the general trying to take food against the princess' wishes. Stepping into the light, he's met by the muscular general, who's holding a blade defensively and demanding to know who's there. The princess tells the general to lower his weapon since this man's saved them, while he himself is stunned to realize they speak the same language, wondering if they're from the Balon continent. He tries to assure them he means no harm, but the general stays hostile and refuses to trust a human, and it hits him that they're actually terrified of him. The general demands to know why the human is laughing at their situation, leaving him confused until he notices Sheol stretched out behind him. Without realizing it, his intense focus on mining has left a genuinely terrifying expression on his face, one that looks a lot like a sinister grin. Realizing he must look completely unhinged from his mining obsession, he quickly straightens up and uses wind and lightning magic to catch fish, offering everyone a fried meal as a peace offering. The display of magic only scares the general even more, and he starts begging for a quick death, while the princess cries and asks why he's so ready to give up. Inside the cave, the other two keep calling out to the young girl they call the princess, but she stays unconscious, and he watches as the old man explains that her wounds just aren't healing right. He learns the princess is suffering from a curse that's shrinking her lifespan, and the shaman sadly tells the general that her time is almost up. Seeing how hopeless they've become, he stops them from giving up and says he actually has a way to lift the curse, using something called a misogi stone. He immediately presses the misogi stone against the girl, and a brilliant light washes over her whole body. After lifting the curse, he notices her lifespan is still dangerously low, so he uses 79 turtle stones to restore it, while the others watch on in total confusion. The general and the shaman can only stand there in silence, stunned by the kind of power he just showed them. The princess finally wakes up, shocked to find herself still alive, but the moment gets cut short by a sudden loud crash nearby. The general slams his head to the ground in a deep apology for how hostile he'd been earlier, while he just invites everyone to sit down and eat. As they gather together, the group introduces themselves as Princess Rai, Vari the shaman, and General L, all survivors of the Belden tribe. He tells them his name is Hiel and mentions he used to be a prince, though he plays down his magic, crediting it to the special stones he found. When they ask about their journey, L explains their village was wiped out by orcs, and after humans turned them away, Rai ended up the last one left of the royal family. The shaman mourns their desperate situation and the wreck of their ship, but the princess won't let him put the blame on the general for everything that's happened. Rai thanks Hiel for how kind he's been to monsters and says she's happy to die without any more pain, but Hiel insists it's way too soon for her to be giving up on life. He explains that plenty more turtle stones are still buried underground, and they can use them to keep extending her life, leaving both warriors speechless. El asks if they can help with the digging, and Hiel happily agrees, admitting he actually enjoys the work and gets lonely being out here by himself. Overwhelmed by how selfless he's being, the princess is moved to tears. She bows deeply in thanks, while Hiel starts thinking about giving them blessings to boost their efficiency and keep them safe from cave-ins during the dig. Hiel suggests a taming contract so they can all work together more smoothly, though he makes it clear they're free to turn him down. Rai insists on serving him to pay back her debt and even asks for a new name, which Hiel realizes means she wants him to finish the taming process. Now going by Elvin and Varus, the two warriors swear their complete loyalty to Hiel and officially join his side as his newest subordinates. He gives the girl the name Rihanna, and she accepts it, promising to dedicate her whole life to him as his newly tamed companion. After the meal, the group heads back underground, and Hiel pulls a glowing stone torch from his inventory to help his companions, who don't have night vision like he does. He points out the safe spots on the glowing cave walls and gets ready to show his team the proper way to mine the area. With one focused strike, he unleashes a massive burst of force that shatters the rock face and sends a heavy tremor through the cavern. A huge tunnel opens up instantly, and he reassures the stunned group that they'll be pulling off moves like that too once they get used to the work. He explains that resources still need to be gathered by hand and has Sheol lead the others in collecting the debris while the group agrees to start practicing. From that point on, the cave turns into a busy worksite, with everyone digging together alongside the slimes. A sudden memory surfaces of him being trampled and mocked as a weakling, weakling by a group of arrogant nobles looking down on him with contempt. One of the nobles winds up a lethal spell and threatens to burn him and the chained creature he's desperately trying to protect. He's snapped back to reality holding a small bottle as a voice calls out his name, Hiel. Rihanna and the others worry he's been overworking himself, but he explains he just got lost in thought and his unique skill lets him dig for as long as he wants without getting tired. The group gathers around a freshly baked apple pie and the hungry miners can barely contain their excitement. It's been 3 days since Hiel met the group and they've already built a kitchen and other facilities to make cave life a lot more comfortable. Hiel is thoroughly impressed by the meal and praises Rihanna for turning his basic ingredients into something this good. Elvin and Varys find the hard work worth it since it helps extend their princess life, while Rihanna takes a moment to thank the whole team for their support. Hiel thinks over their dwindling supplies like clothing and food variety and hopes a merchant ship might eventually show up so he can trade off some of his gems. He decides to keep mining, hunting for more turtle stones for Rihanna, but his pickaxe suddenly breaks through into a hollow space behind the wall. Stepping through the opening, he finds himself in a hidden cavern packed with a huge array of mysterious glowing stones. He notices these stones give off a different orange glow compared to what he's found before, and gets confused when he spots soft dirt covering the cavern floor. Before he can look any closer, a massive striped spider drops down from the ceiling and looms over him and his slime in the shadows. He's suddenly frozen with fear, staring down a spider he's sure is about to eat him, but his terror turns into confusion when the creature just bolts away instead. He quickly realizes he's stumbled straight into the creature's den, and the spider was only trying to protect its many bobbies from him. A system notification pops up asking if he wants to tame the monsters he just found. While back at the camp, the group is caught off guard when the boss tells them to get ready. Everyone screams in horror as the giant spider and its brood suddenly appear right behind him, while he stays completely oblivious to their panicked warnings. He casually introduces the spiders as new members of the group, but the elders are shocked at how massive these cave spiders are, since they're normally much smaller and known for being extremely dangerous. The girl mentions being warned about the dirt in the back of the cave, and he confirms the floor where he found the spiders was covered in exactly that. The old man explains that spider waste is actually packed with nutrients and perfect for farming, but the group can't figure out where they'd even plant anything on an island full of rocks. He leads the group to a massive tunnel with a perfectly carved staircase, explaining he used his Cave King abilities to widen the path for their new spider ally. His Cave King power has hit rank 2 now, letting him shape the cave however he wants and use a workshop feature to turn stone and sand into gravel for reclaiming land. With the plan to remodel the island underway, the group decides to throw a welcome party for the spiders before diving into the heavy work the next morning. The group splits into their own specialties, the men forging iron tools while Rihanna uses soft spider silk to knit high-quality towels and blankets for everyone. He officially puts the giant spider in charge of the farming area so they can start using the nutrient-rich waste as fertilizer for their crops. A surprising new talent shows up when the spiders start mining the cave at an incredible speed, fast enough that even he realizes he can't afford to get careless. A small sprout suddenly pushes up out of the soil and starts growing at an unnatural rate while the whole group watches in total surprise. Within moments, the little plant turns into a massive apple tree loaded with fruit, leaving the group standing there in complete disbelief at the sudden harvest. They realize those orange stones from the cave are actually sun stones that speed up the growth of living things, which also explains why the spider grew so big. Hiel decides to hand off management of the precious sun stones and the plantation to Rihanna before heading back into the cave to keep working. With everyone busy on their own tasks now, he's finally able to put all his focus into mining even deeper into the cave system. Still determined to find more stones to help Rihanna down the road, his efficient digging gets interrupted when he uncovers a mysterious white stone in the wall. To his total shock, the system identifies the rare item as a dragon orb, which supposedly holds the legendary power to bring a corpse back to life. Worn out from the effort, he calls out to Terran and the rest of the group to come help him dig at the site. sight. While taking a break, they realize no more dragon orbs are turning up, and he figures having the power to resurrect people at will would honestly be pretty terrifying. Thinking about bringing an orb outside, he reasons he wouldn't be able to pull it from his inventory if he ever died, but he's interrupted when the boss calls down to him from above. He leaves the orb resting on a skull for now and rushes up the stairs to see what's going on. The old man frantically points out their comrade's ship is right there, and he's shocked to hear it's actually finally arrived. Standing at the edge of the rocky shore, the group watches the ship fight through heavy waves as they try to signal it from land. Relief floods through him seeing they're actually alive, while the old man and the young girl shout out in joy knowing their daughter is on board. Warning Elvin it's way too dangerous for a ship that size to dock there, he offers up his own boat and hands over a bag full of glowing stones. He offers the stones as a parting gift, explaining they can use them to rebuild the Belden tribe anywhere they want, but the old man is stunned by the sudden farewell. He encourages them to leave this remote place and start trading once they find somewhere good to settle, but Elvin and the others answer with heavy silence. Suddenly the old man cries out, begging him not to abandon them, and the outburst makes him jump back in shock, dropping the bag of stones. The group refuses to leave, insisting they'd never be that ungrateful, and they're determined to make sure the survivors arriving on the ship pledge their loyalty to him too. While the old man and the girl confirm they're already his subordinates, he tries to argue they won't get another shot at freedom like this one. The girl asks if he'll come with them instead, and while he admits that was his original plan, he hesitates, gripping his tool and looking down at the mark on his hand. Seeing him hesitate, the girl firmly declares that if he's staying behind, then she's not leaving either. He can only sigh at their stubborn loyalty, but the conversation gets cut short when they notice the ship is in serious trouble out at sea. A massive wave crashes over the vessel as it starts to tip over and sink into the rough water. The old man panics, knowing most of the people on board can't swim, and realizes their small boat won't be enough to save everyone in time. Watching the disaster unfold, he's hit with a painful memory of his own past helplessness, back when he couldn't do anything to save himself or anyone else. He looks toward the remains of a fallen prisoner and grips the vial around his neck, bracing himself to act despite the fear holding him back. He leaps high into the air toward a massive rock formation as the onlookers react in total shock, shouting his name. He dives down toward the churning water where the ship is sinking, telling himself the situation isn't hopeless and he can pull this off. Locked in on the task, he gets ready to use his ultimate ability as a system notification confirms he's about to burn through over 8,000 magic stones. Declaring himself the king of the cave, he slams his hand down and unleashes a massive spell that freezes everything in its path. A colossus of ice erupts across the sea and stabilizes the sinking ship, while the tribe members watch the miracle in complete disbelief. He stares at the frozen landscape with a look of real shock, taking in the sheer scale of the power he just let loose. He orders Elvin to abandon the boat and use the ice to reach the survivors, but as he tries to move forward himself, he realizes the path he just made is way too slippery to walk on. To fix that, he summons Terran and rides the giant spider across the frozen surface, nodding its many legs are perfect for this kind of terrain. While Elvin admits he's had a total change of heart about his fear of spiders, he has Sheol coordinate with the other slimes for the rescue effort. A massive operation kicks off as the giant spider and the slimes work together to pull every member of the tribe out of the freezing water and debris. He keeps shouting commands and coordinating the effort as the exhausted survivors get pulled to safety one by one. Once they reach the shore, he immediately starts using his magic to heal the many injured tribe members gathered around the cave entrance. The old man and Rihanna come to tell him all 205 people are safe now, then ask how they could ever repay him. The general is in tears, reunited with his daughter Fu, while Rihanna notes the sick are recovering fast thanks to his healing magic. Looking over the wrecked ships, he humbly admits he couldn't have saved the Belden tribe without the combined effort of his companions and creatures. He lets out a breath of relief at being able to save everyone this time, but the old man's attention suddenly shifts to a mysterious figure standing right behind him. A large, muscular man man with a thick beard and long hair stands there in total silence, arms crossed. The group is completely thrown by this stranger's presence, since he wasn't on the ship and nobody's ever seen him around the cave before. He introduces himself as Hiel and asks for the man's name, but the stranger just turns away, leaving him baffled by the silence, not to mention the guy's total lack of clothing. Watching him eat like he hasn't seen food in weeks, Rihanna offers to roast more fish, while Hiel figures their first priority should be getting their mysterious guest some clothes. The next day, the construction work is finally finished, and he tells everyone else to start moving in. With the population growing by over 200 people, he sets up dozens of new rooms and gets showered with thanks for pulling off taming the entire Belden tribe. Despite the growth, they're running short on supplies from the shipwreck, so everyone stays busy churning out daily necessities and tools. Rihanna comes up to praise his work and hands him a drink with a strange color and smell. He's surprised to find it's fresh grape juice, which she grew using a sunstone on a seed she found on the boat. She lays out her vision for expanding the plantation over the coming years, and he offers his full support before getting distracted by a commotion nearby. He finds a worker getting worked up over an old man named Mappa, who's just been standing there staring at the blacksmithing process without saying a word. Tired of the silent judging, the worker dares the old man to try it himself, and something shifts in the old man's eyes. To everyone's shock, the old man moves with incredible speed and skill, taking over the forge and hammering away at the metal. The finished ice axe looks more like a piece of art than an actual tool, which leaves him wondering if it can even hold up in the field. To test that doubt, he compares a regular tool against the old man's creation to see if it can actually break through solid rock. The impact is so powerful the stone just gets blown apart, proving the tool's quality even though it's made from plain old iron. Checking out the crater, he suddenly realizes a specific round rock he'd left there earlier is now missing. He puts it together that a dragon orb combined with ancient bones must be what brought this mysterious old man into existence as a reliable new comrade. With the new high-quality tools in hand, the group makes fast progress on big jobs like leveling the coast and rebuilding their ship. Even though they're mining faster and using tamed slimes for transport now, he can't stop worrying that Rihanna's lifespan has only been extended by 10 years. Driven by wanting to keep her around much longer, he throws himself back into his digging with renewed focus. His persistence eventually pays off when he breaks through a wall and discovers a hidden cave system deep underground. Stepping inside, he finds an ancient room with a strange pedestal, and it hits him that this island isn't nearly as empty as he first thought. Sure, something significant happened here a long time ago. He decides to collect the mysterious objects before digging into the mystery any further. A notification reveals that combining materials in his inventory can create a doll which works as the core of an artificial being, and he realizes he can actually build a new comrade. Another item, called a change stone, lets a monster evolve into a whole different species while keeping its original personality and age, a concept he finds pretty intimidating. Sitting around the fire that night, he asks Varus if he knows anything about the stone that triggers evolution. Varus explains that according to goblin legends, regular goblins use the stone to turn into powerful hobgoblins or forest-dwelling leaf goblins. He asks if Elvin is a hobgoblin, but the warrior explains he was just born with this body and has never touched the stone. After learning the stone's ability to renew a lifespan was thought to be pure legend, he asks the group if anyone wants to give it a try. While the general is too attached to his current body to change it, the young girl says she wants to learn magic so she can actually be useful to him. Varus mentions that while goblins normally can't use magic, evolving might change that, so he encourages her, telling her that her growth would genuinely help him. The girl firmly decides she wants to evolve, and he agrees to go through with the transformation. She holds the stone close to her chest and shuts her eyes to start the process. She declares she wants to stay by his side for a long time as a bright light begins wrapping around her whole body. A sudden burst of energy forces everyone to shield their eyes until the light finally fades, leaving the group standing there in total shock. He stares in disbelief, questioning if the mature figure standing in front of him is actually Rihanna. The transformation is complete, revealing the young girl has evolved into a woman with long hair and a completely different different build. Confused by her own change, she asks him what happened to her as she looks down at her new body. The intensity of it all gives Mappa a massive nosebleed, and he reacts in a full panic. Sometime later, he slowly wakes up from a deep sleep, feeling completely disoriented. He suddenly remembers the evolution and calls out for Rihanna, who instantly answers that she's right there beside him. He's startled to find the evolved Rihanna leaning over him in bed, and she smiles warmly at his shocked reaction. Rihanna insists he stay lying down since he collapsed suddenly, while the others watch his confused reaction from nearby. He wakes up again in the middle of the night and asks about Mappa's condition, who's resting nearby, while he tries to clear his head after the long sleep. Rihanna gets asked how she's feeling after her transformation into a human-like appearance, and she admits she never really liked her old self. She explains how a childhood curse stopped her growth and got her family to push her away, which is what drove her to use the change stone to finally get the form she wanted. Rihanna expresses deep regret to Hiel for spending something so valuable on a personal desire, while he just looks on, caught off guard by her confession. Reassuring her, he mentions he's changed a lot since landing on the island too, and he believes it's only right she gets the body she wanted for her new life. Moved by his kindness, Rihanna declares that her life, even her name, belongs to him now, offering her full devotion to Hiel from here on out. The moment gets interrupted when Mappa wakes up to show his approval, mentioning the rest of the Belden tribe was just as stunned by the sudden evolution. Rihanna shows up in a new outfit made from materials Terran and the others put together, asking for his honest opinion on how she looks. While Varus and Elvin saw the change happen firsthand, the rest of the community struggles to believe the beautiful princess standing in front of them is actually the same person. Her dedication to mastering magic and martial arts eventually wins everyone over, as they watch her work tirelessly for the sake of the group. As Rihanna keeps putting in endless effort to improve the island, he watches her work until Varus comes over to talk to him. Varus catches him off guard, pointing out a specific mark on Rihanna known as the farmer crest, which immediately grabs his full attention. They talk about how this crest guarantees a plentiful harvest, noting how rare it is for a mark like that to show up on anyone but a human. Varus reveals his own palm bears the Sorcery King crest, an incredible mark that was previously only ever seen on one of his brothers. Despite how powerful the crest is, Varus admits it's useless to a goblin who can't even use magic, and he shifts the conversation over to his plan for expansion. The goal is to reclaim land from the sea to expand the island's territory and open up a lot more space for crops. Varus stresses how important it is to have a safe area where the kids can play, and asks for raw materials so construction can start right away. Firing up the workshop, he starts synthesizing stone and sand into gravel, processing rocks into blocks to place at the planned locations. Water magic clears out the seawater before the area gets filled with rock and covered with specialized dirt to stabilize the new ground. The project wraps up with the successful creation of a massive public square, leaving the whole community in awe of their expanded territory. The villagers thank Hiel for the fertile land while he warns them about potential dangers as they run off toward the fields. Suddenly, a massive bird of prey swoops down from the sky and snatches a small creature away from the group. The sudden attack leaves everyone frozen in shock as they watch it happen. These creatures turn out to be killer birds, and one of them still has the struggling captive clamped in its beak. Hiel immediately takes charge and orders everyone to retreat to the safety of the nearby cave. A girl tries to help a fallen child but ends up cornered as a bird dives straight at them before Hiel can reach them with his magic. Right before the creature can strike, its head gets cleanly sliced off by a spinning blade flying through the air. Hiel watches in surprise as the blade circles back to its owner after taking down the threat. A massive warrior shows up on the scene, and the girl identifies him as her father as he braces for combat. The warrior sharply orders Full to get out of the area immediately while he gets ready to take on the rest of the swarm. With incredible speed and power, he cuts through several birds at once, leaving a trail of destruction behind him. Recognizing him as a general from the Belden tribe, Hiel steps in to back him up with magical shield support for his next move. Rihanna Rihanna joins the fight too, casting her own barrier to protect the group from an incoming strike. Insisting on protecting the others, she has Hiel coordinate an attack aimed at the birds' heads to figure out where their friend is trapped. Once the villagers are confirmed safe in the shelter, Elvin takes the rear guard while the others hold the entrance. Hiel realizes he's got enough stone material and a heart stone to build an artificial guardian to defend the cave. He successfully builds a massive rock golem that immediately starts crushing the killer birds, stunning everyone watching. One of the birds takes such a hard hit it finally spits out the small creature it had swallowed earlier. Relieved they no longer have to worry about hitting their friend by accident, Hiel asks Elvin to round up the rest of the birds. Elvin sweeps his chained axes through the air, snaring multiple birds at once to finish off the fight. As an orc pins the girl down, boasting that his spider silk rope is unbreakable, he shouts for her to stay low. He immediately summons a magic circle above his head and unleashes a blizzard spell to strike back at the enemy. The freezing blast hits with full force, and he and the girl watch as the creature gets completely overwhelmed by the ice. After the attack, the remaining monsters take off and retreat into the distance, leaving him relieved the threat is finally clearing out. The crowd cheers in victory as the leader praises his work, while Rihanna rushes over to check if Hiel got hurt. Rihanna suddenly breaks down apologizing for being scared, admitting the only reason she felt brave enough to face the danger was because she was right by his side. Hiel admits it was actually his first time fighting a monster too, showing his shaking legs, which gets them both laughing while the leader lets out a sigh of relief. The group celebrates making it through, and Hiel finds himself overwhelmed by everyone's gratitude and support. Holding his pendant, Hiel reflects on how someone like him has finally found a place where he's genuinely accepted by everyone around him. As they head back toward the cave, he starts thinking about his potential as a feudal lord while the group gets excited about feasting on killer bird meat. The workers start butchering the massive bird carcass to get the meat ready for the upcoming meal. While the meat cooks over the fire, the old man pulls Hiel aside to give him his personal thanks for how much he contributed to the fight. The whole community gathers around the fire for a huge feast as the old man gives the signal for everyone to finally dig in. The group throws an unprecedented banquet to celebrate the night they successfully drove off the swarm of killer birds. Hiel hesitates since he's never eaten monster meat before, but the smell and color are too tempting to resist, and Rihanna encourages him to dig in. The moment he takes his first bite, he's shocked by how good it is, smiling as he admits there's no doubt about how delicious it tastes. Rihanna is glad to see him enjoying the meal and serves him some soup, which leads him to notice the meat inside tastes totally different from the roasted pieces. Rihanna explains that killer bird meat changes flavor depending on which part you eat, with different sections tasting like chicken, pork, or beef. Varys points out that these birds avoid targets bigger than themselves, so they decide to use the golem as a guard while Hiel talks through plans to build walls and watchtowers to protect their fields. A young girl watches the group from a distance, crouched quietly and enjoying her own share of bird meat. He realizes the girl staring intensely at him is actually someone Elvin knows. Moving closer, she introduces herself as Full and demands to know if he's the one who gave her that name. When Full asks why he's so strong, he explains that mining magic stones has boosted his power, while another girl clarifies that goblins need special change stones to evolve their bodies. Full immediately announces she wants to evolve, but a massive goblin warrior smacks her on the head and tells her to stop bothering the boss since they don't have the stones for it. The warrior apologizes for his daughter's persistence, but Hiel surprises them both by telling Full she can keep any change stone she manages to dig up herself. Overjoyed, Full promises to be a helpful miner, while he thinks about how useful it'd be to have more magic users on the team. Turning his attention to Rihanna, he uses 800 magic stones to boost her power, leaving her shocked by the sudden investment in her abilities. Rihanna vows to do her best to improve as the group gathers for a meal, with the big warrior insisting eating well is the first step to getting truly strong. Following the successful land reclamation, everyone gathers for a massive Thanksgiving feast marking the first Memorial Day in Sheol Reef. In the middle of the celebration, he lets out a sudden sneeze as the temperature shifts. They step into a massive freezer Rihanna suggested building to preserve their large food supply, but the biting cold quickly forces them back out. After locking the meat behind a heavy steel door, he praises Mappa for his craftsmanship and asks the dwarf to keep shaping the stone facilities. Inspecting the newly renovated forge, Rihanna confidently promises to cast freeze magic regularly so their ice stores never melt. With Elvin and Varus making steady progress on the outer defenses, he finally feels like he can shift his focus back to his main job, mining. Taking a break from work, Full admits she's surprised nothing disastrous has happened during their long stretch of construction. She warns him he's being careless about mine safety, pointing out that the buildup of dust is dangerous and they desperately need proper ventilation. Full explains that gas buildup can lead to poisoning or even deadly explosions, and he agrees that Mappa needs to build an air circulation device right away. To prove she knows what she's talking about, Full reveals a minor crest and insists she's a capable worker who's been in the mines since she was a kid. He recognizes Full's outstanding instinct for finding ore and starts seeing her as a rival, before asking if she has a father or any other family. The question stirs up some internal reflection about a family with boundless power, where gaining incredible magic was always overshadowed by his deep-seated fear of his father and brothers. Inside a dark cave, a young girl finds a hidden opening and excitedly announces it, while Hiel asks if she really wants to surpass her father's strength. Stepping into a massive stone hall lined with rows of giant statues, she asks Hiel if this is the stone room where the change stone was kept. The mood shifts as the statues suddenly start moving, and Hiel shouts a warning to Full just as a stone hand reaches out toward them. As the golems draw their swords and surround the pair, Hiel quickly throws up a magical shield to block an incoming strike that sends her stumbling back in fear. Facing down the overwhelming number of stone guardians, Hiel braces himself and gets ready to unleash a high-level counterspell. Hiel casts a massive storm spell that whips up violent wind vortexes, successfully trapping the surrounding golems in a powerful magical discharge. The intense wind pressure turns out to be too much for the stone constructs, completely shattering the golems into fragments scattered across the hall. After the fight ends, Hiel checks if Full got hurt while she apologizes for her reckless behavior, and he admits the golems showing up was more than he expected. Hiel sends Sheol to signal the miners to pause their work before identifying a sorcery stone used for creating dolls, though Full is disappointed it's not a change stone. Mappa's sudden and silent appearance startles the group, making the girl cry out in fright as the bearded man looms over them. Mappa starts playing with one of the discarded swords with strange excitement, leaving the girl questioning his eccentric nature while Hiel notes that people like him are rare. The group discovers a massive sword stuck in the ground and tries lifting it together, but despite their combined strength, the weapon doesn't budge an inch. Hiel realizes his Cave King ability only works on raw minerals and can't process manufactured items, so he tries breaking the sword with his pickaxe instead. Even a special ice axe fails to make a dent, shattering on impact, leaving Hiel baffled by how indestructible the metal is. A system analysis reveals the sword is made from orichalcum, a legendary metal that's light and magic compatible, yet he's still shocked he can't lift it. Elsewhere, a massive crowd gathers around an old warrior straining with all his might to move the heavy object. Back at the main camp, Hiel and Full learn that the general brought back a sword that everyone's currently failing to budge. Hiel shocks the crowd by revealing the sword is made from 300 orichalcum ingots, just as Full begs her father to give up on the impossible attempt. Elvin activates a glowing crest on his shoulder, revealing the source of his immense power and showing Hiel exactly why he's known as a great warrior. Elvin manages a brief and terrifying show of strength with the weapon, leaving Hiel and Full completely stunned by the feat. A group checks on Elvin after he collapses, and others call out to the general. A young man confirms the wounds aren't serious and he'll be fine, but as the boss comes to in pain, he remarks on how dangerous that was even for a fighter this tough. Right before a girl rushes in to hug the fallen man, Full clings to her father, crying and calling him an idiot, genuinely terrified by how reckless he'd been. Her father apologizes and promises to be more careful going forward, while the others watch the emotional reunion before the focus shifts to the forge, where Mappa is seen melting down a legendary mineral known as orichalcum. Dwarves, it turns out, are a legendary race known for loving rare minerals and packing incredible physical strength along with mysterious techniques and noble spirits. Hiel walks up to ask if Mappa is finished, and the dwarf silently confidently hands over a freshly crafted tool, surprising him enough that he asks to hold the finished piece. Once he picks it up, he's shocked by how light the orichalcum ice axe feels in his hand. After that first success, Mappa keeps churning out tools made of orichalcum, proving he's the real deal, even though Hiel notes the dwarf's love of going naked probably wasn't part of the original legend. The story shifts back to a fight where a group of warriors realizes even the general's axe isn't working against a massive creature, and the leader tosses aside his broken weapon. Feeling the thrill of the fight, the general tells the enemy to bring it on as he gets ready to take on the beast with his bare hands. Later, inside the cave, Hiel notices the air feels noticeably cleaner, and Full explains it's all thanks to the ventilation hole she recommended. The steady flow of fresh air comes from Mappa's design of rotating blades that use tidal energy to power the whole system. While the crew is eager to get back to mining, they stay cautious since they never know what they might dig up next, like when a blast reveals a whole new path. To keep everyone safe while mining, Hiel decides to build new guard golems using 10 magic stones and 14 artificial hearts, planning to make them even more advanced while Mappa handles the equipment. After working through the designs, he looks over his massive blueprint for a super ultra max golem and wonders if he's gotten a little carried away with the project. He starts excitedly listing out the golem's features: orichalcum gear, a sword for close range, a bowgun for long distance, even artillery, until Rihanna startles him by apologizing for interrupting his intense focus. Rihanna asks if he has some spare time, and when he says yes, she tells him it'd be more fun to just show him instead of explaining, a rare flash of boldness from her. They arrive at a storage area packed with baskets, and Rihanna announces they've finally reached their destination. Hiel is amazed to find a hidden, lush orchard full of different trees and hanging fruit. He praises Rihanna for the incredible job she's done with the orchard, noting they now have apples, grapes, lemons, and even palm trees growing successfully. Rihanna thanks him for the compliment but points out they still don't have enough food for everyone, and she explains she's got another idea as she reaches toward one of the trees. She calls out for a break as she strikes at the trees, knocking down several coconuts and leaving him completely stunned beside her. She immediately leaps into the air and unleashes a series of powerful kicks to split the falling fruit with perfect precision. After catching the pieces, she squeezes the juice into containers and runs back to the group while he and his small companion just stand there, stunned by her speed. They mix the lemon and coconut juice with water so everyone can enjoy it in moderation, while he wonders how she picked up such incredible power from her martial arts training with Elven. He finds the drink refreshing with just the right amount of tartness, but their break gets interrupted when a group nearby starts calling for the general and Elven. At the mining site, the workers discuss the idea of restarting operations while he notices a strange object on the ground and asks if it's some kind of shell. Elven identifies it as a Satan shell he hunted earlier, warning the group its shell is tough enough to repel an axe, and explaining that only his own strength can force it open. Varus warns that the liquid inside is a numbing agent used on prey and can turn into a deadly poison depending on how it's processed, which seems to hit the bearded man nearby pretty hard. Varus quickly admits he was only joking about the poison, since the liquid is actually used for harvesting purple dye, prompting Hiel to think through his defensive strategy against the creatures threatening his home. Hiel reveals 14 newly built golems and orders them into formation, numbering the units from 1 to 15 as Elven watches the show of force. He explains units 6 through 15 are equipped with magic stones, with 2 units specialized in defensive magic and the others mastering different elemental attributes. An alarm bell suddenly rings from the watchtower as a guard reports more Satan shells are approaching an unfinished section of the perimeter wall. The group watches on in concern as a massive swarm of over 50 shells emerges from the water and starts crawling over the stone defenses. When he asks about a weakness, Varus explains that while the shells resist heat and cold, they're completely vulnerable to lightning. He asks Elven to let him handle it so he can test out the new golems, then turns to Rihanna to check her proficiency with lightning magic. Rihanna confidently agrees to help as he calls golem number 1 forward to begin the counterattack. He and Rihanna stand on top of the massive golem's hand as he orders Units 6, 7, 14, and 15 forward into the fight. As the swarm of shells charges toward them, he quickly orders Units 6 and 7 into their defensive positions. The two golems raise their shields and throw up magical barriers that successfully block the incoming path of the shells. With the enemies pinned down, Rihanna channels her energy, and he sends a massive spark of lightning surging through the golem, wiping out the shells in a single blast. The onlookers notice how the large golems act like mobile forts, letting the princess move freely, and he praises Rihanna as he orders Units 14 and 15 to fire. The concentrated magic blast slams into the group of creatures, setting off a massive explosion that tears through their ranks. One of the monsters strikes back with a stream of liquid, but the golems throw up their shields to block it while the surrounding creatures get blown away by the force of the impact. Rihanna joins the offensive, firing her own magic in sync with the golem's powerful strikes to finish off the remaining enemies. The group realizes the golems are keeping the numbing liquid from reaching Hiel, and he figures this fight is going to wrap up much faster than he expected. With the area cleared, he praises the group and reflects on just how strong magic-wielding golems really are, admitting Rihanna performed even better than he expected. He orders Golem number 1 to help carry the monster meat to the freezer before it spoils, but a sudden sound from a surviving creature catches them both off guard. As the creature spits out a concentrated stream of liquid, Rihanna shouts a warning to Hiel and throws herself in front of him to take the hit. After Elvin strikes down the monster and checks on the boss, he realizes Rihanna is incapacitated and rushes over to see if she's alright. Covered in the creature's numbing fluid, Rihanna collapses against him, weakly apologizing as she loses control of her own body. She looks up at him, explaining her whole body has gone completely numb from the liquid. He quickly casts a healing spell to clear out the toxin, but gets visibly flustered when Rihanna gets up and mentions how sticky the stuff feels on her skin. He offers to fetch her some water to clean up, but Rihanna insists she can manage on her own, right as he notices something shining inside one of the open shells. They find a rare pearl inside the Satan shell, and both agree it's an exceptionally beautiful and valuable find. Admitting he doesn't really understand jewels, he offers the pearl to Rihanna because he thinks it suits her perfectly, leaving her completely stunned. Overwhelmed by the unexpected gift, Rihanna gets intensely flustered and struggles to find the right words. Unable to handle her emotions, she suddenly apologizes and runs off, leaving him confused with the pearl still in his hand, realizing giving it to her isn't going to be so simple. By the next day, he's back to work in the mines and decides it's finally time for a short break from the labor. Full insists on working a bit longer, but he reminds her not to skip the princess meal, while telling Golem number 15 to ring the bell if anything comes up. Protected by the golems, the group keeps mining, and it's clear Full has more energy than anyone else as she works, wearing a crown mappa made for her. Enjoying a full-course meal of Satan shells, the group reflects on how much the nearby monster nests have given them food, dyes, and strong materials. But the dangerous currents around Sheol Reef hint these waters are hiding more than just resources. It's becoming clear the ocean has brought them something far more grim than simple blessings. Nearby, someone examines a roll of Tyrian purple cloth made from the local materials. The workers are impressed the quality beats even the fabrics used by nobility, and they get ready to turn the cloth into clothing, right before someone calls for Elvin to check out a new discovery. A large man approaches the boss and asks him to follow to the reclaimed land, where a crowd has gathered along the shore. There, the lifeless body of a massive creature lies washed up on the sand. The group confirms it's an orc pulled from the shoreline, but the mood shifts fast when they spot a seal on its armor belonging to the very tribe that destroyed their hometown. Consumed by rage, the men start striking the corpse, ignoring calls to stop as they vent their hatred for everything done to their friends and families. The old man hesitates to step in, admitting this orc really was an enemy of the Belden tribe, and wondering if he even has the right to stop them. A sharp command to stop suddenly cuts through the chaos of the angry crowd. Rihanna stands firmly in front of the mob to protect the body. She declares that disrespecting a corpse is shameful, and asks if her people have lost all their pride, even as memories of the orcs using their king's body as a public warning haunt her. She insists insists they can't lower themselves to the enemy's level and apologizes to Hiel, saying it's his call how to handle anyone who washes up on the island. Taking a moment to steady himself, Hiel thanks Rihanna for stepping in. Stepping forward as chief, he acknowledges everyone's frustration but says he can't let them disgrace the dead while it's under his watch. He bows deeply to his people, asking them to hold back their anger and respect this one selfish request for restraint. The men are clearly unsettled seeing their leader bow, but they eventually give in, and he asks Varys to oversee a proper burial for the body. As the recovery continues, they find a total of 24 bodies pulled from the water, including creatures other than orcs. Among the remains is a kobold, one of the bitter enemies who'd apparently been fighting alongside the orcs before meeting their end at sea. Standing over the grim scene, Hiel and the old man wonder why orcs and kobolds would even be fighting each other out in such a remote area. Looking closer at the wounds, they realize the marks weren't made by weapons at all, but by massive fangs and extreme heat, suggesting an attack from some unknown third party. The old man decides to keep these unsettling details quiet to avoid causing panic, while ordering a tighter guard against armed ships and assigning burial duty. While digging through the wreckage for anything usable, Rihanna and Hiel find most of it ruined, until a faint scratching sound catches their attention. They track the noise to a locked treasure chest that Rihanna can't open, though she can clearly hear something moving inside. He uses his unlocking magic to pop the lid, only for a dark shadow to suddenly leap out and startle him. To his surprise, the creature that jumps out of the chest is nothing more than a small, energetic puppy. The puppy starts jumping all over him as Rihanna calls out to Hiel, who frantically asks what he's supposed to do with the excited little animal. After the puppy leaves a stain on his clothes, Rihanna laughs and offers to wash them, while he starts looking at the little creature with growing curiosity. Rihanna identifies the animal as a baby kobold, and even though they're technically enemies, she argues the infant is innocent and convinces him to look after it for now. The next day, Hiel is back to mining the rocky terrain, noting how effective Mappa's special orichalcum ice axe really is. Still determined to gather raw materials to defend the island, he keeps checking his inventory as he processes the collected ores. Hiel reviews his stock of magic stones, hoping to eventually use them to boost Rihanna's magic energy or help his other allies unlock their own abilities. Among his finds, he uncovers a mysterious seed instead of a stone, right as Full shows up pointing toward something happening nearby. Back at the camp, the general is making ridiculous faces trying to calm the wailing puppy while a giant spider and a slime watch the whole chaotic scene. Despite everyone's best efforts to comfort the creature, the puppy just wants to stop crying, leaving the whole table confused. Fed up with the lack of progress, Full delivers a flying kick to the general and demands he stop his nonsense. The second Hiel gets back to camp, the puppy instantly stops crying and sprints toward him with excitement. The puppy leaps into his arms as the others explain it's been inconsolable since waking up from its nap, no matter what the general tried. While the others joke that the puppy's imprinted on Hiel like a father figure, Varys points out the chest it came from looks like it's got a false bottom. Mappa explains that not even an orichalcum knife could pierce the chest despite its plain wooden look, while Hiel asks Rihanna to hold the puppy so he can use magic to unlock the hidden compartment underneath. Inside the secret compartment, they find several books on the history and techniques of the Tybris tribe, along with a mysterious white stone that catches his attention. A prompt identifies the object as a thought stone capable of storing memories, but the group can't make sense of the difficult ancient letters written on the documents. As Hiel calls out to Varys and holds up the stone, it starts emitting a blinding light that startles the whole group and makes Mappa look on in shock. From the glowing light, a spectral projection of a majestic fox-like woman in regal attire appears before them. The figure introduces herself as Elhemena, queen of the Tybris tribe, and explains that since the seal's been broken, they're now seeing her message about the newborn baby found in the chest. Varys is visibly shaken at the mention of the tribe as Elhemena reveals she doesn't have much time left and has a difficult truth to share. She shows a vision of their ship being relentlessly chased by the legendary beast Leviathan through a violent storm at sea, explaining that their battle with the orcs had left them exhausted and their magic was useless against the beast. She makes a desperate request for them to become foster parents to her child. She offers their most sacred forbidden books as a reward while her strongest warriors defend the ship, giving one final plea to let her baby hear her last words someday. In her final moments, the queen looks at her child with a gentle smile and tells the baby she loves him. The projection fades away completely, leaving the group standing in heavy silence as they take in the weight of her final message. The scarred general grumbles about the Tibris tribe leaving their child to strangers and gets immediately scolded by Rihanna, while Hiel realizes just how deep the history runs between their two groups. The young elf girl explains the Tibris and Belden tribes have been at war over territory for a long time, revealing her own brother was killed in that conflict. Despite the tragedy, she insists her father would never hate an innocent child, and Varus adds that he lost a brother in the war too but holds no grudge against the baby. Hearing their support, Hiel firmly declares Hel take care of the creature, which brings a sense of relief and joy to everyone. The group realizes the queen never actually gave the baby a name, and Rihanna wonders if she left it out on purpose so his new guardians could treat him as their own. After Rihanna suggests the name Riel, Hiel agrees and officially announces the creature will go by Riel from now on. A system notification confirms the naming is complete, and the elf girl teases Rihanna by pointing out the name combines parts of Rihanna and Hiel, sparking a moment of light-hearted laughter. Once things settle down, Varus brings up a serious problem about the marks of giant fangs and extreme heat that could take down a beast immune to both weapons and magic. Looking up in shock, Hiel identifies the massive mythical creature appearing in the distance as the Leviathan. Turning to his companions, he asks Mappa if he's certain about the next step and gets ready to act the second he gets a firm nod. He immediately casts a powerful flame spell that sends a massive pillar of fire across the area while the others watch the display of power. A mechanical guardian raises its shield to intercept the blast, successfully activating a series of magical barriers that absorb the heat and impact. The group notices the orichalcum shield holds up a lot better when it's reinforced with magic, prompting Hiel to check in on Varus and Elvin. As they oversee construction of a massive defensive machine, they praise Mappa's incredible design and stay confident it can protect the island from giant monsters. Hiel questions if the creature really is the mythical monster from the legends, remembering a grim story about an entire army led by Queen Ilhemina getting wiped out by a hidden beast. The talk gets interrupted when Riel gets stuck on top of a tall wooden pillar, and the group starts worrying about the height. The general quickly climbs up to rescue him but ends up falling when Riel jumps onto him, and Rihanna rushes to apologize and check if he's hurt. They talk about how kobold kids like Riel grow up fast and will soon be walking on two legs, though the little troublemaker keeps digging up seeds in the fields in the meantime. While looking over a large, unusual seed, Hiel asks Varus if he recognizes it, only for Rihanna to suddenly whisper the name Yggdrasil. Rihanna is visibly startled by her own words, insisting the name just slipped out as Hiel and the others stare at her in surprise. They start to wonder if her farmer crest is feeding her ancient knowledge, as Varus explains that Yggdrasil is a legendary giant tree from old tales said to bless all living beings. Shifting focus back to expanding their base, Hiel uses his pickaxe to finally break through a thick rocky wall, clearing a brand new path. Looking over the map of the mountain, Rihanna thanks him for his effort and agrees that turning the reclaimed land into a defensive base is a smart move. Hiel confirms he's gathered plenty of rock and gravel but asks the smaller workers to help move the dirt outside, since his retrieval ability only works inside the cave. By that evening, they finish the new reclaimed land and get ready to plant the Yggdrasil seed, while Rihanna decides to add flower seeds from her hometown too. Hiel gets briefly startled by Mappa's silent presence, but his attention snaps away when Rihanna points out the mysterious seed has already started sprouting. Mappa asks if they've tried the sunstone yet and suggests using its power on the small sprout to see what happens. Following his suggestion, Rihanna holds the glowing sunstone above the plant and the sprout instantly reacts, growing into a much larger tree. He marvels at the sheer power of the sunstone until he notices something strange happening among the trees. He asks Rihanna if she's sure she only used one stone as the surrounding forest starts reacting violently. As the terrain collapses branches and boulders start raining down, the group has to run for their lives. Mappa falls into the crumbling earth during the chaos as the others watch the ground give way completely. The survivors look up in shock to find a group of hostile warriors staring down at them from a stone fortress. Hiel and Rihanna stand in silence, watching a massive structure loom in the distance. Towering over the ruined mountain is the legendary world tree known as Yggdrasil. Somewhere else at another time, a man with a marked face tortures a small creature with wind magic, explaining that precision is the key to mastery. He gathers a group of students from the Magic Academy to start a cruel training session. The students fire off spells that narrowly miss the creature, mocking its struggle and claiming the near misses were on purpose. These elite students from the Magic Academy are deliberately hurting the creature slowly, just keeping it alive for their own amusement. Hiel watches from the shadows in tears, shaking with rage as the students keep laughing at the creature's pain. After the group leaves, the small monster is left bleeding and chained to a post in the courtyard. Hiel rushes to the creature. He calls Lopes to apologize, admitting his weak healing magic hasn't been able to fully close the wounds. He realizes he can't remove the shackles and is terrified Lopes will eventually be killed by the repeated abuse. The elite students come back and Oren immediately demands to know what Hiel's doing near the captive monster. Clenching his fist, Hiel asks Oren for a favor, begging him to stop the torture and let the monster go. Oren walks up with a cold look on his face and suddenly strikes Hiel across the face for interfering. He mocks Hiel for spying, reminding him that royal blood or not, he's still just asking for the release of a mere monster. Oren winds up a lethal magic circle and orders the powerless Hiel to move or get turned to ash right alongside the creature. A swirling vortex of energy fills the scene as Oren watches in desperation, held back by a group of powerful figures. The blonde man sighs in disappointment, calling the whole thing a total buzzkill before telling Hiel he can do whatever he wants. Claiming he's grown bored with this kind of training, the blonde man orders Oren to undo the lock on the creature right away. He gives Oren permission to free the beast from its chains but warns he can't let a monster loose in the capital, giving him a strict 10-second window to act. The countdown starts immediately and Oren stares in horror as the blonde man coldly counts down from 10, leaving him no choice but to rush toward the trapped creature. Oren frantically tries to pick the magical lock while the blonde man's companions watch with smug amusement at his desperate struggle. As the small creature offers one last innocent smile, the countdown hits 0 and a cruel grin spreads across the blonde man's face. Before Oren can finish, the creature is instantly burned away in a burst of black flame, leaving nothing but smoke and scorched remains between his hands. The blonde man walks off with his group, mocking Oren for being so pathetic that he let his own friend Lopes die right in front of him. Consumed by rage, Oren realizes this whole thing was a setup and lunges forward with a punch, only for his fist to get stopped cold by a magical hexagonal shield. The blonde man asks what exactly Oren thinks he's trying to accomplish, mocking him for believing someone so powerless could ever challenge him. Looming over the trembling young man with a terrifying stare, the blonde man asks Oren if he honestly thinks he has the right to even lay a hand on him. Sometime later, Oren remembers waking up in a medical building and eventually finding his way to a secluded stretch of forest. Holding a vial of the remains, Oren beats himself up for making a promise he couldn't keep for doing nothing while his friend died. But the girl beside him disagrees, insisting he isn't powerless at all, reminding him of every time he protected the Belden tribe and gave his companions their names. With tears in her eyes, she insists he's always doing everything he can to help the people around him, no matter the cost. Oren is caught off guard when Rihanna apologizes for his pain, making him wonder why he even shared such a pathetic story with her in the first place. He eventually realizes he just wanted someone to listen, and as they walk together, he admits there's something important he's been wanting to tell Rihanna. The two arrive at a bright clearing in the woods, and she gasps in amazement at the sight in front of them. They look down at the ground, where a flower from her hometown has been carefully planted right alongside the others. Standing in a meadow, he and Rihanna watch Riel run around happily among the flowers. Rihanna brings up Hiel's lingering regret over Lopes, reminding him he should never forget that everyone here is behind him whenever something's weighing on him. Looking out at the diverse group gathered in the field, she points out that he's finally not alone anymore. Hiel expresses his sincere gratitude to Rihanna, and she answers with a warm smile. As for the island's resources, Varus discovers the tree's leaves work great for tea and medicine, while the sweet sap needs careful handling since drinking too much can leave a person completely dazed. The branches have also been used to craft ice axe handles, turning out remarkably light yet so tough they're hard to work with even using orichalcum tools. As the sun sets, Hiel tells Rihanna it's time for dinner, but she says she isn't tired at all since the Yggdrasil branches seem to have a fatigue-reducing effect. The giant tree keeps blessing everyone on the island, raising everyone's hopes for the upcoming harvest. Life on the island keeps getting better, and Hiel settles into bed, thinking about what he should mine the next day. In the middle of the night, Hiel jolts awake to find Riel trembling and making distressed noises, and he worries something's wrong. The rest of the group rushes in after hearing the crying, and Rihanna scoops Riel into her arms, guessing he was just having a nightmare. Suddenly, a glowing crest appears right inside Riel's left eye, catching everyone off guard. The mark lets off a blinding flash of light that completely engulfs everyone standing in the room. The group shares a vision, watching a series of intense, chaotic events unfold through one single perspective. They see a ship's mast snapping in a violent storm, with bodies scattered across the deck near a discarded crescent-shaped spear. A multi-tailed fox woman stands amid the wreckage, holding her staff high to keep up a magical barrier against the storm. A powerful beam of energy shatters the barrier, severing her arm and sending her staff flying into the air. She looks up in pure terror as a massive shadow looms over the wrecked ship. A colossal sea monster, rows of jagged teeth filling its massive mouth, gets ready to swallow the woman and the remains of the ship whole. The vision cuts off abruptly, leaving everyone gasping for air as Rihanna asks Hiel if he saw it too, while the others realize with horror that the beast was the Leviathan. He clenches his fist and grits his teeth, sweat running down his face as he stares ahead with a sharp look, the weight of the moment pressing down on him.